Even if I get married, you're still my number one. Is it okay to say you prefer me over that woman? It'd really be sad if we suddenly couldn't meet as soon as you're married, you know? I couldn't believe my ears when I heard Tom's words coming from the living room. It was shocking to actually hear it with my own ears, even though I kind of knew. It's not that I didn't believe it, but Emily's story seems to have been true. I'd heard he was careless with women since a long time ago, but I never imagined it would come to this right before the wedding. Emily and I exchanged glances and quietly left the house. Maybe it was better to find out now, before the marriage certificate was signed. With Emily as an ally, it seems like things will go smoothly from here on out. I thought our relationship had been going well until now because I didn't notice anything, or maybe I was pretending not to notice. So it was like a puzzle that easily falls apart as soon as one piece is missing. One after another, various pieces of evidence about those two that I didn't want to see appeared, and I started to wonder what I had been seeing in Tom, almost to the point of disgust. I will never forgive Tom and Christy. With that resolve in my heart, Emily and I started planning how to give those two a taste of hell. My name is Jessica Young. I'm currently 25 years old, working in the HR department of the administration division at a company, and I'm known as a silent, icy woman, so much so that people say talking to me is like talking to a stone. I'm just not good at speaking and find it hard to initiate conversations with others. It's not that I prefer to be silent or that I intentionally take a cold attitude. And now, I live in our own home with my fiancé, Tom Smith. At work, where I hardly ever talk, Tom was the only one who proactively tried to strike up conversations with me. Tom is 2 years older than me and is so skilled in the sales department that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him the ace. He started talking to me soon after I joined the company as a new grad, and he was relentlessly pursuing me. Despite being in different departments, he frequently asked me out for lunch or drinks. Tom, a refreshing and handsome man, was rumored to be the target of many women from various departments, so I indirectly turned him down, suggesting we shouldn't be alone together. But Tom was persistent and even pushy about wanting to go out with just the two of us. At first, I wasn't even interested, but I gradually became aware of him as a man older than me, acted like a devoted dog around me. Tom always took the lead, was good at talking, and also good at listening. I saw him at work, and he seemed like a serious, capable person. I had turned down his confessions a few times, but after relentless pursuit by Tom, who doesn't easily give up, I eventually gave in. And that's how our relationship started. We've been dating for 3 years now and living together. Tom proposed to me a little before our 3rd anniversary, and we were about to have our wedding. We planned to register our marriage the day after the wedding ceremony. We finished our meal with both of our families, and the wedding planning was going smoothly. That was when I first met Emily, and since we are close in age, it didn't take long for us to become friends. Emily has a friendly personality, and she proactively talked to me, a very quiet person. For the first half a year, I went to the wedding planning meetings with Tom and even went on a date after. But recently, as Tom started saying he was busy at work, I ended up going to the meetings alone more often. You can decide whatever you like, Jessica. I had started to feel that this phrase had become Tom's catchphrase recently. He was also coming home later and later, so I decided to ask him if it really was work. It's really work. I'm sorry for making you feel anxious. I'm just swamped with a big project right now. I'll try to make time from now on. Even though he said this, I couldn't fully accept it, but since he promised to make time, I didn't say anything more. I would just attend the weekly meetings with the planner and then we would go our separate ways. He did make time for me once a week, but he started coming home past midnight during the weekdays. He also started going on more business trips, leaving the house empty. We work at the same company, so I should understand if he's really busy, but looking at the sales department as a whole, they didn't seem to be that busy, and there shouldn't be any business trips. I feel isolated at work, not really having close friends there, and it's starting to weigh me down, making me feel uneasy. I decided to reach out to Emily, the only person I can talk to like a friend. We got in touch and made plans to meet at my house the upcoming weekend, 3 days from now. During those 3 days, Tom would come home late, so the only time we could have a conversation was in the morning. The day of our meeting arrived, and I hadn't even told Tom about seeing Emily. Recently, my conversations with Tom have been nothing more than good morning and have a good day. I wonder if I wait for Tom to come home, would we be able to talk? I also have work the next day, so I couldn't stay up late into the night. And as always, his business trips seem to fall on the weekends, so we haven't been able to have a proper conversation. Even when I send him messages, he just reads them without replying, and he only answers the phone once out of every 10 times I call. And when he does answer, he immediately says, "I'm at a client's place right now, and it's really busy," before hanging up. While I was pondering about Tom, Emily arrived at my house a bit earlier than the agreed time. We made small talk, and when I mentioned I needed some advice, Emily's expression turned serious. "Wait, my brother?" After I spilled everything, Emily looked shocked. But she quickly started speaking apologetically. "You know, Jessica, I've been debating whether or not to tell you this, but I think I saw my brother downtown during one of his supposed business trips. I wanted to believe it was just my imagination and didn't want to upset you. I'm really sorry." Hearing Emily's words made my heartbeat race. I gently held her hand, understanding how hard it must have been for her to say this, and she started to cry, continuing her story. "When I confronted my brother about it, he threatened me, saying, 'If you don't tell, she won't find out.' You don't want to make Jessica unhappy, do you? And with the wedding coming up soon, every time I saw how happy you looked, I just couldn't bring myself to say it. I'm so sorry, truly. Emily, it's not your fault, okay? I'm sorry, and thank you for bearing with this alone, for being threatened, and still telling me everything. You must have been really hurt." Emily broke down, as if she had been holding everything in. I also learned that Tom had a history of being irresponsible with women. I felt bad for Emily, but a part of me still couldn't quite believe that the kind Tom would cheat. To get a clear answer, I decided to hire a detective agency and told Emily about my decision. She agreed, saying it was a good idea. She wanted to be there when the results came back, so I promised to let her know when the agency contacted me, and we parted ways for the day. Waiting for the results, I was on edge. One day after work, I received a message from my mom asking, "Can you come to our place this weekend with Tom? We need to talk about the wedding." Since my parents live far away, it would mean staying overnight if I went. I messaged Tom about going to my parents' place together for the weekend, but he replied quickly, saying he couldn't get out of work. So, I ended up deciding to go alone and told my mom. I also informed Tom that I would be staying overnight at my parents'. However, as usual, he didn't reply to my message. The weekend arrived, and Tom left early in the morning, saying he had to work. As I was about to leave my house after breakfast, my mom called. "Jessica, I'm sorry, but your dad has the flu. We just got back from the hospital. Since Tom is at work too, can we reschedule?" "Sure, I understand. Tell Dad to get plenty of rest, and you take care too, Mom." I hung up, my plans now cancelled. Just then, the detective agency contacted me, saying their investigation was complete, and asking me to come to their office. I texted Emily to see if she could meet up now, and she could, so we both headed to the agency's office. After hearing the results of the investigation, we were utterly shocked. The person my partner was cheating with turned out to be Christy Grubb, a new employee at our company. She worked in the same department, in the same section as I did. She stood out because she was quite attractive, which is why I remembered her name and face. Even though I knew, I didn't want to accept the reality, I was desperately holding back my tears. We thanked the detective and decided to go back to my house to talk about it together. When we got home, I saw Tom's shoes, and next to them, a pair of unfamiliar black pumps. We quietly closed the door, trying not to make any noise, and crept down the hallway leading to the living room. "I've always put you first, even after getting married. Is that your way of saying you like me more than her? I mean, it's gonna be sad if we can't meet up after you get married. Well, you say that, you're also engaged to that stoic boss, aren't you? But you like me more, right? You little devil. We could hear the unwanted conversation coming from the living room. I couldn't believe what Tom was saying. Hearing it with my own ears, even though I knew about it, was a shock. It wasn't that I didn't believe Emily, but it turned out that what she said was true. I had heard that Tom was careless with women before, but I never thought it would come to this, especially right before our wedding. Emily and I exchanged glances and quietly left the house. We went to a nearby cafe, and for some reason, I started to laugh. Emily looked at me worriedly. Emily, there's something I need your help with. I thought so. I'll do whatever I can. And that's how we started plotting our revenge. From that day on, I stopped talking to Tom. He seemed to sense something was up and started talking to me first. By this time, we had less than a month until the wedding. Even though Tom started talking to me, I responded coldly, which made him stop going on business trips and start coming home early. Oh, you're home late, Jessica. Welcome back. The boss decided to let me leave on time since the wedding is coming up. I can finally relax now. When I came home, Tom would start making excuses, even though I hadn't asked him anything. I just responded, "That's great." We had never fought before, but this was the first time Tom raised his voice at me. What's the deal with your attitude? It's really pissing me off. Did I do something to you? Why are you being so cold? Is this your way of getting back at me for coming home late before? It's nothing like that. Whatever. It's irritating to come home to this, even though I can finally come home early now. I'm going out for drinks with friends today. With that, he busied himself in his room before leaving, stomping his feet as he went out. I figured he was probably going to see that woman. Tom's bedroom door was left open, so I went in to close it and took a quick look around. The closet door was open as well, and when I stood in front of it, I realized his suits were gone. He had probably taken them with him, meaning he wasn't planning to come back tonight. That meant we could proceed to the next step of our plan. I called my parents and told them about Tom's affair and our plan for revenge. They were surprised, but they told me if I was going to do it, to go all out. After hanging up, I saw that Tom had sent me a message. Do you understand why I left? You better think about your behavior. I didn't reply, just took a bath, and then went straight to bed. Somehow, I wasn't feeling sad or angry anymore. I was actually excited about our revenge plan. Emily was probably telling my in-laws about Tom's actions by now. I had given her copies of the photos we received from the detective, so they would have to believe her. I wasn't sure if they would join in on our plan. Even if they tried to stop us, we were prepared to go through with it anyway. The next day, Tom came back home and threw his bag on the table angrily when he saw I didn't greet him. Enough is enough, Jessica. What's your problem? If there's something bothering you, you need to say it. You can't expect me to read your mind. Oh, welcome back. Are you mocking me? Don't you have any affection at all? Why can't you be more like her? Tom caught himself mid-sentence, realizing his slip-up. Could I take that as a confession? I just stared at him, and he awkwardly said, "Anyway, you should be more affectionate. I'm going to take a bath." And he hurried off to the bathroom. In the meantime, I went to my room and reported the conversation to Emily via text. "What? Is that a confession?" she texted back, clearly amused. And finally, the day before the wedding. My parents are staying at our house, so I suggested that Tom should stay at his parents' house, and he is already gone. So, I was helping my parents pack up their stuff. Jessica, are you really leaving this house? Yeah, I'm fine now. The memories with Tom are just memories I don't need anymore. With those words, my parents seemed to understand, and they packed the luggage into the car for me. We arranged for a courier to pick up the items that couldn't fit in the car at a later date. The next day, I woke up early, did my makeup perfectly, and was all ready to go. Then, I received a call from Tom. I ignored all his calls, and he started sending me a barrage of messages like "Where are you? What are you thinking?" But I ignored those as well. Later, I got a call from Emily, who was at the venue. As soon as Emily confirmed that I had picked up the phone, she asked the venue staff to make it possible to project my phone screen onto the screen at the venue. I switched to a video call, took a deep breath, and started speaking to everyone at the venue through my phone. "Thank you all so much for coming today to celebrate with us. However, I am unable to marry Tom. I will let his sister Emily explain the details." After saying this, Emily took the microphone and encouraged everyone to look at the other screen, where photos of Tom cheating were displayed. The venue erupted into murmurs, but Emily calmly explained while sliding through the photos. Tom and Christy, who had been boldly sitting in the venue, turned pale. Well, it was their own disgraceful pictures being shown, so it's no wonder they turned pale. Suddenly, Christy stood up and shouted in front of the screen, "Don't look. This is a misunderstanding. Someone erase this." Tom also grabbed the microphone from Emily and said it was a joke for the wedding entertainment, but no one believed him. The boss from his company started making a fuss saying, "What is going on here?" And his friends were somewhat amused, saying, "Isn't this bad?" Then, Tom's father angrily snatched the microphone and began to speak. "Everyone, we sincerely apologize for the inconvenience today. Our foolish son has caused you trouble. We will return your gifts at the exit, so please at least enjoy the meal. Thank you for coming today. We will be leaving now. Excuse us." And with that, he grabbed Tom by the neck and left the venue. Christy, who was engaged to her boss, seemed to be in a muddy situation, but they had already started fighting. "It's not true. That's a doctored photo. I would never do such a thing. Please believe me." She was desperately trying to get her boss's attention, but he didn't even glance at her and just left. People around Christy seemed to be taken aback by her crying. Emily and I apologized to the venue staff and the guests, and then hung up the call. Right after ending the call, I quickly grabbed the rest of my luggage and left the house. I had already told Emily that Tom's belongings were in a storage rental, so he would probably go pick them up someday. Tom, goodbye. With that, I left the house full of memories behind. After moving, I went to Tom's parents' house with my parents and a lawyer to discuss things with Tom. I knew Tom was at his parents' house because I had asked someone to watch him to make sure he didn't run away after the wedding ceremony ended. As soon as we arrived at Tom's parents' house, Tom started loudly berating me. "Jessica, everything is over because of you. I've been put on house arrest by my company, and they said they will decide on my punishment later. What the hell? What are you going to do about my life now?" Tom's father held him back, and we were led into the living room to start discussing the main issue. The lawyer began explaining from the beginning and brought up the topic of breaking off the engagement, which seemed to surprise Tom for some reason. Wait, why are we getting married?" We were all surprised to hear Tom say that, wondering if he really thought we could still get married in this situation. I'm sure everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. Of course not. What are you talking about? Well, let's continue with our discussion. Our demands are $50,000 for the wedding cancellation fee and $20,000 for emotional distress. There will be no division of assets. If you refuse this amount, we will immediately take legal action. Tom seemed like he was about to say something, but his father stopped him. It was his father who spoke on his behalf. "Jessica, I'm really sorry for what my foolish son has done. Please, go ahead with your demands, regardless of what this guy has to say. I'll make sure he pays for it himself, whatever it takes." His father was trying to get Tom to say his apologies, to express his regret for what he had done. Seeing his sincerity, I decided to leave without saying anything more. As I left, thinking that it was all over, I realized that I was the center of attention when I got to the office the next day. But since no one talked to me, I was able to go about my work as usual. When it was time to leave, I was about to head home when someone called out to me at the entrance. I turned around to find Christy, with a look of rage on her face. "It's all your fault. Because of you and your meddling. I was this close to marrying into wealth, having a handsome lover, and living a happy life. I will never forgive you." Just as she was about to attack me, Christy's former fiancé came just in time to restrain her. "This isn't Ms. Young's fault. I had my suspicions about you from the start. Besides, your extravagant spending was getting out of hand. I would have called off the engagement regardless of this situation." With that, Christy broke down in tears right there. He called the police, and they took Christy away. She was given a stern warning by the police for attempting to harm me. The next day, I thanked him and thought I could finally get back to my normal life, but it wasn't that simple. I accidentally answered a call from Tom. "Ah, thank goodness. I finally got through to you. Jessica, can't we start over?" "What are you talking about now? It's impossible." "Well, I'm gonna pay the alimony, so I can live in that house, right?" I couldn't believe what Tom was saying. The house we lived in was a gift from my parents for our engagement. And it was in my name. "No, I sold that house, though." "What? Why are you deciding things on your own? The house is community property, right? You should deduct the money from the house from the alimony." "First of all, that house was bought by my parents under my name. It doesn't count as community property. Talking to you is giving me a headache. Don't call me anymore. Goodbye." Tom was still saying something, but I hung up without listening and immediately blocked his number. I then called Emily to tell her about the contact from Tom, and we agreed to meet up later. Today's the day I'm meeting up with Emily. We decided to catch up over a cup of coffee at a cafe and talk about how Tom has been doing. I heard he's dealing with a lot right now, including alimony from me, a cancellation fee from the wedding venue, and alimony from Christy's former fiancé, all adding up to around $100,000. I'm pretty sure the company decided to just transfer him to a different department and gave him a talking to when the alimony claims got settled. However, since he's never done anything but sales, he kept getting scolded every day, snapped, and eventually quit on his own accord. He was planning to mooch off his parents and settle down there, but his father kicked him out, or so Emily tells me. But if we just leave him be, he seems likely to stop paying the alimony. That's why he's ended up working at a factory owned by a friend of his father, living on site. The factory's located in the middle of nowhere, and there's no cell service, so I doubt he'll be able to bother me anymore, Emily said with a laugh. Since Emily seemed to know what became of Christy as well, I decided to ask her about it. Christy apparently had to pay $20,000 in total, $5,000 to me and $15,000 to her former fiancé. With her looks and charm, she could have easily paid that off quickly. But she has this bias that night work is for lowlifes and ended up wandering the streets, unable to pay off her debts. She managed to find some temporary work, but since her only assets were her face and her charm, she couldn't do the job well enough and got fired. In the end, she started working multiple part-time jobs just to scrape by and then got hooked on going to nightclubs. Her debt kept growing, and she couldn't pay off her tabs at the nightclubs anymore. The last I heard, she was taken away by some tough-looking guys into the night, and no one knows where she is or what she's doing now, Emily explained. I asked her how she knew all this. And to my surprise, she told me that she and Christy went to the same middle and high schools. Christy was infamous since middle school for rumors about her stealing other girls' boyfriends. Emily never liked her to begin with, so she's glad to be rid of her now. As for me, I didn't face any backlash at work. In fact, I became more popular and started getting invited to lunch more often, even becoming close friends with some. I've also gotten pretty chummy with Christy's former fiancé. We get along so well that we go out together on our days off. Where it will lead, nobody knows yet. Emily and I are still close, like sisters or best friends. And I plan to keep it that way.